All right. Hello, everybody. We just launched the webinar. There are people filing in on the attendee panel, and while we're waiting for folks to get from their other meeting to this one, I just wanted to welcome everyone. I'd love to hear in the chat. And again, very interactive today. Let me know where you're calling in from today. We usually have people from all across the globe. It's always great to know where the WorkTango community is at, but I'm actually in Toronto. It was very, very warm the other day, and now it is very, very cold. So I'm kind of getting used to what we're going to get in terms of fall and winter. But we got Denver, we got Calgary, Jacksonville, from Mass. Love it from all over. Toronto, we had a big, big win at the Jays yesterday in MLB. Okay, we got people from all over. I love it. As people are filtering, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Rob Catalano. I will be hosting today's conversation on our WorkTango webinar. A couple times every quarter, we host these webinars to bring our community together, find out what's happening out there in the world of work. And it's at this point that I'd love to thank everyone for taking time out of their busy days, coming up for air, and seeing what else is out there and excited to have you all here today. Before I get introducing our speakers, which I'm also excited to introduce and excited for, is I want to talk a bit about our topic today, which is from cost cutting to culture building. How do we leverage AI to elevate the employee experience? And we were thinking about how do we bring the community together and have this discussion today. We were thinking about, we're starting to get into September, October. A lot of companies are thinking about 2026, and there's a lot of things on our mind from a people level, from an HR level, when it comes to thinking about what success looks like next year in terms of our planning. And obviously, AI has been on a lot of people's mind this past year. I think it's getting larger and larger, and how folks are going to implement that into their annual plans, their 3-year plans, the 5-year plans. But a lot of what we've been hearing from an AI lens in our HR community has been, well, how do we leverage AI to cut costs or cut headcount or reduce those levels of effort and expenses that are out there? And there might be opportunities to do that in organizations, but we want to have the conversation today about how do we shift our thinking to also think about, well, how can AI build a better employee experience, right? How can it build an environment where people want to come to work, to be inspired, support the goals of the organization? And we all know that when we have engaged employees and folks that are enjoying their experience, there's so much impact in terms of what that offers our organization. So we want to have that chat today to help our community really think about different ways to infuse AI into your 2026 strategy from a lens of elevating the employee experience versus just cost cutting or focusing on those types of efforts. So if it's your first time at a WorkTango webinar, we are very interactive. If you have questions, pop them in the Q&A, give your thoughts or questions in the chat as well. And I, if I have the permission to dive in and ask a question if I see it, but I know our speakers are going to be also doing that as well to make sure it's a really interactive discussion. So that being said, I wanted to introduce the speakers we have today. So welcome to the webinar. We're so happy to have you both here in this fireside chat conversation. First is Brian Kropp. He is hey, there he is, a globally recognized thought leader in the talent and HR space, senior leadership roles in leading organizations, serving as the president of growth at World 50 Group, managing director in Accenture's HR practice. He's the chief of HR research at Gartner. He's been recognized by HR Executive Magazine as one of the top 100 most influential HR leaders. I am so excited you're here, and I know everyone else is as well. So thank you, Brian, for being here. And on the other side of the screen here, Monique McDonough, she's our CEO here at WorkTango. But prior to being CEO, she was spent 3 years in the WorkTango world as our COO, spending a lot of time with our HR leaders, our customers. So she brings this really unique perspective of the challenges that HR leaders face. But even as our business leader, right? How at WorkTango do we leverage AI for the employee experience? How do we do that with our product that we provide? A lot of organizations across the world. So I'll leave it to Monique to start the fireside chat. And before you start asking the hard questions, I want one easy question for you both. And I love just, this is more, selfishly for me, but tell me about the best concert experience you ever went to. Love hearing about that. And we can dive into the discussion today.
Brian, you first.
For sure. So the first concert I ever saw was from a band called the Pixies, and it was forever moons ago. It was great and I loved it. But what was really cool, my daughter, who just turned 14, she's been getting to music lately. So she and I actually went to go see the Pixies on back-to-back nights about a month and a half ago. So I took her to see a band, which was the first concert that I ever went to. And so it's just kind of a cool full circle life experience for her. And so now she's got like a Pixie sweatshirt and a Pixies t-shirt and wears it around. And like, ah, I've raised that child well, is, one of the thoughts that I've got. So that is probably the most memorable experience, is taking my daughter to see the same band that I saw for the first concert I ever went to.
That's so cool. And also mad respect for the Pixies. So what an awesome band.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to pick from a band that I had the privilege of taking my daughter to see her first concert, which was Taylor Swift, right? I have two teenage daughters. Shocker, one of them at least wanted to go and see Taylor Swift. So last summer we were at Wembley in London and we got the Ed Sheeran appearance. So he came out on stage as the guest and it was unbelievably cool and this amazing experience of love and friendship and happiness and joy. And for those of you who made it and experienced it, you get it. For those of you who aren't sure why there's all this craziness, it's okay. I get it too. So, okay, Rob, you have to answer.
Well, I'm a big Metallica fan. I am for the last 30 years. I actually got to go not only go to a concert in New Jersey, but actually meet two of the band members and take pictures
Oh,
with them.
wow.
And think about when you meet like your music hero. So if I look just that way, it's all on on the wall and signed song sheets and all that. So that was epic for me. I don't think I can go to another experience after that.
Yeah, that's great.
All
Well,
right.
clearly
Well, the
we've got
real
the
topic
genres
today.
covered.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, Brian, thank you so much. I'm so
Sure.
excited to have the opportunity to chat with you. I mean, you and I have known each other for a long time, having both worked at
Well, we
CEB.
met each other when we were like 10.
I know,
Um,
right? It
yeah.
feels that way. But I'm so excited to connect with you and get to talk and share experiences about what you're seeing with the intersection of HR and AI and kind of share a little bit about what we see with our customers and even internally here at WorkTango. So for those of you who don't follow you on LinkedIn like I do, you've been having tons of conversations with HR leaders trying to get a pulse of like, what are you hearing and seeing? What are some of the common themes that you're hearing from folks? What are some of the fears that
Yeah.
you're taking in? So catch everybody up on the summary of some of those weekly digests that you've been publishing on
Yeah.
LinkedIn and help us set the stage.
Yeah, for sure. So, as we think about how AI is going to be impacting uh, not just the HR function, not just employees, but work itself, organizations itself, when we look, into the future, is it 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now? Nobody really knows, in all honesty. But what we do know, the world is going to look fundamentally different in terms of how work gets done, how we're organized, how we interact with each other, and all those sorts of things. Um, But that's what the future looks like. Where we are right now is a spot where we know there's all this technological capability that exists, but to be honest, we're really not sure how to use it in what sort of ways to make the world better. We're starting to figure out ways to use it to make the world more efficient, to pull cost out, and that's good and well. And that, like, decreasing cost is a good thing. We don't want to not acknowledge that. But that is going to be the smaller part of value creation that's going to occur from all these new tools and resources. The greater part of value creation that's going to occur is from identifying new business models. New industries are going to emerge. New ways of working are going to emerge. The relationship between employees and their employer is going to change. That experience is going to change dramatically. The rub is we just don't know how, when, in which ways. And you know, if we had a time machine, I could jump forward 5 years and come back and tell you, but we're right at this moment where we know the world is going to change dramatically. We just don't know how or why or when, but we can start to experiment and learn new ways of doing it and trying new things, some of which will work and some of it won't. But we're right at this point where we've got to start doing new things and using these tools to try to figure out how to make the world better, not just cheaper on that front. Now, when you look at some of the data about what's actually going on, the expectations for value improvement for revenue growth are incredibly high. So Morgan Stanley came out with a study that said you should expect 40% improvements in value to organizations that are using AI. If you look at earnings calls from CEOs, they say about 30% improvement on average across them. But when you look at uh, companies getting value right now, only about 5% of companies are seeing real positive benefits from using AI. It's not from a lack of effort, a lack of trying, a lack of encouragement. It's we just don't know how yet. And so we're just starting all of that experimentation. And I think from an HR and talent perspective, if you want to live on the steeper part of your career curve, that's what's going to happen across the next couple of years. Because you're going to be on the hook for figuring out not just your function and how your function is going to change, but how all the services you provide to your employees are going to change, how leaders need to change, how work needs to change, how the organization needs to change, all those sorts of things. And it's going to be an amazing experience across the next couple of years to live through that and grow through that. So at a very, 10,000 foot level, that's kind of a good starting point. That incredibly high expectations, uh, people seeing some cost benefits, very few people seeing yet real positive returns in terms of revenue growth, new ways of doing things.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything about the way that we work is getting re-examined
Mhm.
from, how we identify and hire talent to how we think about what organizations are doing to engage and make their teams more productive. And then also, to your point, where are there business opportunities outside of what we see today that are just exponentially possible because this new technology helps us to shift? So that's a lot of change, right? And HR leaders aren't necessarily the most risk advantageous people that we see,
Sure.
right? Their jobs are to protect the organizations and employees and help create great spaces.
Well, I don't want my HR function to take a lot of risk with like payroll. Like
Right.
I hope that is a pretty smooth process. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But HR has this like really important seat at the table at a
Mhm.
critical time. So how do you think HR leaders should look at, kind of leading within organizations to try to help set the stage for the massive shift that's about to happen?
Yeah, it's a really good question. The number of conversations I've got with leaders where they say something to the effect of, "Oh, we just need to use AI within our company to invent the next Uber, and we're going to do that, and then amazingness is going to happen." And their mindset is, "Well, we just need to buy more AI technology to make it happen." And I want to take a step back first. Uber, Lyft, like that whole industry is obviously game changing to society on all sorts of dimensions. But it really wasn't a technological change exclusively that made that happen. Yes, having cell phones, connectivity, GPS, all those sorts of things were an important technological piece. That was part of it. But the other things that were also going on at the same time is there was massive unused capacity of all these people with cars that weren't being used. There was a cultural shift in that everyone was getting much more familiar with the idea of a shared economy around things. So, Airbnb, like all those sorts of things emerged. And then you also had a taxi system that probably was not the most effective, efficient, or best thing going on. So the technology enabled that, but it was the technology plus cultural, plus societal, plus all these other things coming together. So, an important thing for leaders and HR executives to realize is that the technology is really, really important. But what's going to change society, change the way we work, is the technology plus something, plus something, plus something. And so, the first thing you need to be thinking about is not what technology will do exclusively, but where is technology plus culture plus society plus other factors coming together? And those will be the places where we're going to see the most disruption, the most innovation, the most new things that are happening. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. It's not going to be technology by itself. It'll be technology, it'll be something heavily enabled by the AI technology from there. So, for example, when it comes to like an employee experience perspective, how do we feel culturally that the relationship between employees and employers is changing? And then how can we leverage AI to enhance that and improve that and make that an even better relationship from there? But you want to start with these other factors, not just with the technology exclusively to get there. That's kind of one first big thought. You know, the second big thought is it is really hard for most employees if you just go and tell them, use AI and make awesomeness happen. Because what tends to happen is that they do things like I do, which is like, well, you use AI to, do a slightly better Google search or to plan your summer vacation, or those are things, and those are great. But again, those aren't going to be big, massive organizational changes that create the sort of step change that people are expecting. So I think one of the first things that HR leaders should do, both when it comes to thinking about their function, thinking about their organization, uh, is to say like, well, what's hard right now? What are the things that employees have to deal with that are just hard? What are those friction points? What takes a lot of time? What is annoying and frustrating? What is annoying and frustrating for our customers? And just start with like, where is their pain? Where are their gaps? Where something could be better? So if you go back to the Uber example, the pain was standing on a street corner on a rainy day trying to hail down a cab. Like that's like a terrible experience to have to go through. It's like that was a real pain that you could do something about. What are those equivalents within your organization? And start with what are the places that have friction, that hurt, that are hard, that we can reinvent, we can experiment, we can try new things because most of our employees will say, oh, at least they're trying to make that thing better. And that gives you a lot of leeway and a lot of runway to experiment.
I totally agree. Starting with the problem versus assuming that if you buy technology that it will solve the problems like that. You and I both know that never works, but it's so
Never.
true in the world of AI is when you focus on what's the problem to be solved, the job to be done, the thing that people hate spending their time on that could get less painful, less significant. That's a huge opportunity. How do you think about how HR can give people permission to experiment? What we found in talking with a lot of our customers is they have employees that may experiment outside of work, but getting them to feel comfortable experimenting in work is really hard. Tell me a little bit about how you've seen companies do that well.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that are really starting to emerge that I would really recommend for organizations to think about. Um, First, uh, we're spending too much time right now when it comes to AI thinking about ROI on AI. Um, and that prevents us from experimenting because we're like, well, is it worth it? We're going to spend money on it. Are we going to get an appropriate return? Is it going to clear some sort of internal hurdle rate? All those sorts of finance related things. Um, Here's the honest truth. Nobody has any idea, right? Uh, Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Uh, what we also know is that the cost of using these tools and innovating, experimenting with them will become cheaper through time. That's true of every technological innovation. So what we should be thinking about right now is uh, let's just find things that can generate a return. Can we make something better? Let's not worry about yet if it is worth it, but does it do something? Because what I do know, if there's no R, then the ROI is going to be negative no matter what. Uh, so you have to start with like, are we doing things that can generate a return? So one of the first things is to talk with employees and say, like, let's not worry about, are we clearing an internal hurdle rate? What is the ROI of this? Is like, does it make things better? Yes, then how can we do it more effectively? Is the second question, rather than combining this. So I think that's one of the first things, because that takes a lot of burden off of employees, where they can just try because they're not as worried about is it worth it, but like does it do something? So it's a slightly different question to ask, but that's I think one of the first important parts of the communication. Second, we talked about a little bit, but be more directive about where to do the experiments. Uh, when you just open up the door and say wherever you think it makes the most sense, whatever you would like, you get lots of small things that are occurring. And with all of those small things, it's really hard for any of them to get to any sort of criticality in terms of idea generation, in terms of thoughts coming together, in terms of experimentation and learning on top of each other. So find something that has return on a place where there's a problem. And then three, this is one of the most important things. Uh, Reward the effort, not the result. Promote employees that are experimenting with different things, even if they fail. Create that environment through soft accountability, through recognition that experimentation is good and you can learn from experimentation. I think the communication to employees and that part, it matters.
And that's so different, right, from how organizations have historically held up successful employees and showcased greatness. It was so focused on results in this notion of we want you to celebrate you if you are trying something different and new because it's important for you, it's important for the business.
Right?
That's a hard message for people to not to say, but to truly understand and internalize.
Right? You know, HR executives have talked for years. It's like, oh, we need to celebrate learning. Like, now's your chance to
Yeah.
celebrate that learning. It's like, tried something cool, failed spectacularly, but it was a good idea. So do more of that, you know? Um, One of the places where there's another really interesting approach is how do you actually get your leaders to feel comfortable adopting and experimenting? I don't want to stereotype too much, but I will a little bit. Uh, Most senior leaders at most organizations did not grow up in a world of technology. Uh, they're just unfamiliar with it, and getting them to be willing to experiment and try new technologies and try new things is one of the most important things that HR needs to do. And I'll share with you a trick that is actually really effective at making that happen. If you take a step back and think about leaders in general, uh, leaders are really competitive people. They like to win. When you do any sort of assessment, a Hogan assessment, a OPQ, whatever, like any of them, one of the things that always comes out is that leaders are competitive. They want to win. And I mean competitive in a good way. They want to win,
Yep.
right? Um, you can take advantage of that. Uh, so what you can do as an HR executive is find the leaders that really want to experiment or try new things and showcase those leaders to your other leaders. Because when you're a senior leader at a company, and if you see one of your peers doing something really cool and getting recognition from the CEO, getting the brand value that's associated with that experimentation, the competitive nature of other leaders will cause them to try to experiment and learn and want to adopt and do new things. You as HR coming and saying like, hey, you have to do this, Mr. and Miss Senior Leader, like that is a tough hill to climb. The, the person that sits down the hall from you that runs a similar sized business unit is doing something really cool. And look, the CEO just said that they're doing something really cool. Up to you what to do with that information. But that sort of soft accountability, that sort of peer pressure for your leaders, I think can be really effective at getting leaders to have a mindset of adoption, experimentation, willingness to try new and different things in the AI space.
Yeah, and really, like you said, celebrating the work that people are doing, some of which is, people are going to have great ideas and really cool opportunities for better insights, more efficiencies, all of the great things. But sometimes the failures will get you to a better version two or version three or
For
a third
sure.
attempt that, it's okay to not succeed the first time, but it's the importance of trying.
Mhm.
So let me pivot just a little bit to a slightly different version of
Sure.
kind of HR's role in all of this. HR leaders are going to have to be part of the AI strategy at an organization. How do leaders who are unfamiliar with AI or, kind of trying really quickly to catch up to their heads of R&D or technology if they're in tech companies, how do they upskill themselves very quickly? And what are some of the skills that they need to just harness and capitalize on in order to be successful with that?
Yeah. The AI is a technology, uh, but I think it's unrealistic to have uh, to expect lots of people to become technology experts.
Yep.
I think there's a couple of skills that are really important that HR executives need to focus on and hone right now. One is their change management skill set and toolkit. Because at the end of the day, uh, AI is a technology, but for organizations to gain advantage from it, it's a change management question. And how do you use your change management skills to help other people adopt it and encourage it. So that's one place as you think about your role within the organization. The second one is really thinking through the world much more like a product manager and really building people and bringing people on your team that have product management backgrounds, having you as an HR executive read about product management, take product management skills training, whatever makes the most sense. Because when you think about it as products, then you start to get to a point where like, well, we can experiment. What are the things we're trying to build? What does success look like? So I think while a lot of people say, oh, I have to build the technology skill sets of everybody, it's like, you know, sooner or later the AI code's going to be writing itself. And by the time you learn the skill sets to do it, like AI is going to do it for you anyway. So it's like, I'm not really sure if that's worth it. But the change management part of it, and realizing that this is a massive change that's occurring and making sure you've got the skills and capabilities to do that. And then the product management part of it and thinking about the things that you do as products that you can experiment with, uh, try, test, understand features of. I think those are the mindset changes that that HR executives in particular really need to adopt.
Yeah. And Rob, actually, I saw Katie's question come up, so I'm going to actually pivot a little bit to it and expand it. So I've heard from some leaders that they don't want to go all in on AI because it's not perfect. It's still evolving. There's a fear of hallucinations or that the information that they're going to get isn't correct. How do you think we as HR leaders or business leaders need to grapple with that balance of imperfect technology?
Yeah, it's a real problem. Um, and in particular, uh, we've had this problem when it's come to like machine learning tools that we've used before in recruiting processes. Uh, we've had some version of not necessarily hallucinations like we see with AI, but bias that's been introduced in other tools that we've used. And an hallucination at the end of the day is just a different type of bias that's there, right? Um, you know, the the answer that I would have given 3 months ago is different than the answer that I give now. The answer 3 months ago would have been, yeah, that's a problem, but it'll get better. And we'll start to eliminate those hallucinations, those bias. It'll like as the tools get better and those sorts of things. I'm starting to doubt if that's actually the case. And this is why. Um, in order for AI to get better, uh, it has to constantly be consuming information and new sets of data, new documents to learn from and get better at. And a lot of the belief, 12 months ago was, oh, there will just be an infinite amount of information that AI can be trained on, and it'll get better and better and better. Uh, what we're actually seeing is that the big tools, so ChatGPT, Gemini, they've already read everything on the internet.
Yep.
So the rate of new things being added is actually quite small. And the most of the stuff that's being added now is AI created stuff, which is just reinforcing the existing bias that's there, and the existing hallucinations that are there. And then what you see is other places that are content creators are putting firewalls around everything, so those AI tools can't get access to it to improve their knowledge and capabilities and ability to eliminate these sorts of things. The reason why I mention all that is uh, if your AI provider or a technologist is talking to you and they make the statement, um, well, it's only going to get significantly better from now going forward, it'll probably get better. But if we've been, at like a 90-degree rate of growth or 80, like 90 degrees, I guess would just be straight up, like an 85,
I get your point.
like really steep. My math teachers would kill me. And like really steep, it's gonna be upward, but that slope could potentially not improve as quickly as people are thinking right now, which is interesting. It'll get better, but not better at the rate it's been getting better because of the underlying data problem. The reason why I mention all that is the hallucinations aren't going to go away at any point in the next run of time. So there's a couple things that you can do about it. One is uh, apply AI tools on places where there's pain, where if there is hallucinations, that the downside of it is minimal, right? So realizing that it's there, but uh, uh, you can live with the pain that's generated from it. Um, so, like for example, uh, there are a lot of manager tools that are being created right now where you can talk to an AI manager agent. So have it, you don't want it to be about performance scores and having that employee talk with that agent about performance scores, because if there's an hallucination, that's a real problem. But if it is talking to an agent about how to have a difficult conversation, role playing a difficult conversation, that might be a place where you could use it, where even if there is some hallucination, it will still be valuable to the person. So you want to pick the places where um, the downside risk of it is minimal. Three, uh, at least for now, we don't want to turn over everything to AI. We want to be able to start to use some of these tools, but at the same time, have other more traditional processes that we're still engaging in to see are there hallucinations that are emerging as a qualitative test of where to use these or not. But the I think one of the most important answers and the most important points is that these problems aren't going to go away as much as the AI companies say they will. They've run out of data and they're using synthetic data now to generate more capability within their tools, and that's not going to solve the hallucination problem
Yeah.
that's emerging.
Well, I totally agree with you. And I would say that's another reason why this notion of human in the loop, right?
Mhm.
AI doesn't necessarily replace all of the activities that an individual or a person can do, but can support some of the lower order work. But this notion of having a human in the loop to check what comes out from AI and to make sure that you've got the critical thinking applied on top of it to make sure that it's correct, it's valid, it's usable, and that it's appropriate. Like that's really important in teaching people that it's
Yeah.
AI plus humans together that create this really powerful combination.
And I want to go back and underline something you said, which was the critical thinking of the human that's there. Um, as I've talked to some companies about this idea of human in the loop, they're like, oh yeah, a person checks it, so we're good.
It's not,
Um,
not just
there
that.
was which is you're not good if that's like going on. And I'll tell you a story. So there's a company that I was talking to that they were using AI tools to make compensation recommendations. And you take a step back, you're like, oh, it can make a lot of sense. It's that the AI tool, much faster than someone in HR, could look at where is this person on a comp distribution? How does that compare to external factors? What is their likelihood of turnover? How in demand is this capability in the market? Like, do. Here's the number, right? So, like, I buy that could be useful. But what they did smartly is to have a human in the loop. So the AI agent made a recommendation as to the comp change. And then the manager was supposed to go in and say, like, do I follow that recommendation or not? And what they found is that about a third of their managers just accepted all of the AI recommendations, like no matter what. It's like approved. Uh,
Yeah.
a third rejected all of them and just did it by themselves. And then a third went through and accepted some and rejected some that was there. But one of the big takeaways for me on that front is uh, if you just have people that are rejecting everything or accepting everything, that's not the critical thinking that you need to take advantage of these tools. What you have to do is like that third in the middle that was accepting and rejecting some. What were they doing? And how were they thinking through it? And how were they using it? And so it's the human in the loop that's engaging in critical thinking to make sure that you get to a good outcome. It's a bit longer sentence, but that's an important part of it. It's not just human in the loop, it's thoughtful human in the loop who's
Yeah,
deep
especially
enough.
especially in those situations like you described, which is both art and science, right? And the
Mhm.
art part of it needs that critical thinking to make sure that the data component, right, that's given to you, the facts, if you will,
Yeah,
actually apply.
for sure. There's one other thing that I think is important as well that I should have mentioned earlier when you're asking about the like what should HR be doing. Uh, you also have to manage your AI strategy a little bit as a portfolio. And you don't want it just to be big bets or small bets. You want to have a mix of projects that you're working on, some that are big, some that are small. So as you're thinking about where there's pain, uh, where can you identify a return, uh, have a mix of some big ideas and some small ideas, because to the learning part, you want that mix of ideas and mix of pilots to learn from big and small. So that's just one other thought that I should have mentioned earlier.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So, earlier, gosh, I think it was last week, our good friends Gartner just
Hmm.
released their 2026 report on what CHROs have as their top priorities, and two of the four were AI. Shocking, but it's huge, right? It's right in front of us. I want to get your reactions. Are these the right topics? So the first one is harnessing AI to revolutionize HR. And the second one was shaping work in the machine human era. Do you think Gartner got it right? And if you were to augment it, what would you do?
Uh, you know, kind of. I think, um, I think, uh, and I would say, right space but incomplete.
Okay.
In that, HR's job is not to um, uh, uh, buy technology. HR's job is not to simply reinvent work. HR's job is to create an environment, a culture, a situation where the best people want to come and work there and perform at their best and stay for a long time. So I think all of the top 26, uh, what should HR be working on? Uh, it is all AI infused, rightly so, but for what purpose? And I think what is missing is why. So reinventing work for the machine human age. Sounds awesome, but is that to improve employee performance? Is
Yeah.
that to create a better employee experience? Is that to improve engagement and retention? Because, or is it to decrease cost, right? Because what you really want to know is the why of what you're doing. Like, why are we trying to reinvent work? Is it to scale more effectively? Is it to create a better relationship with our employees? It's those sorts of things. So I think HR is going to make mistakes if they take their eye off the job that HR exists for in the organization, which is to uh, attract, develop, retain high-performing employees and leaders to drive the overall performance of the organization, right? And to build a culture and everything around it. But like why? Um, and if you're an HR executive and you're having a lot of conversations around, should we buy this technology or that technology? Should we use this vendor or that vendor? Uh, if I was in that room, I would just interject, like, what outcome do we want to change, right? And uh, employee experience is a really good outcome to get better at, for all the reasons that's better performance, retention, engagement. The list goes on and on. So I think the question has to be, what are you trying to make better, right? Um, and that's where I think a lot of the suggestions are incomplete, and they focus on the technology, not the outcome.
Uh, Yes, I can see your thinking absolutely. And I think part of it too is we spend so much time talking about efficiency at work, right? And focusing people on the work to be done. But I think there's two other really important components. One is, do people have the critical skills they need in the world of AI, and how do you retool them, right? If they don't have them, how can you help foster and develop that?
Yep.
Which gets to the second part, which is, with the use of AI, do the types of roles that you need shift? And how do you help your leaders across multiple departments think about that shifting talent landscape, right? And that's huge,
Yeah.
rethinking entire organizations so that you can have really great professionals with the right skills doing the right work. Um, how do you think, and that's really kind of the fundamental part of what we as HR leaders and business executives are should be grappling with. To your
Yeah.
point, it's not
Yeah.
the tech, it's not, how do we find automation and efficiency? Those are parts of it, but the bigger opportunity in front of us is really re-examining the workforce. So that's a that's hard, that's big.
Mhm.
How do you think HR leaders can kind of break it down into actionable components or, critical decisions to make to unpack it a little bit and make it less scary?
Yeah, yeah. If you look at the things that we know are going to be true, but we just don't know exactly how much or how fast. But here's some stuff we know that's going to be true. Um, uh, Lower level work is going to be automated, uh, and that's going to have a couple of implications. One, manager spans, and we're already seeing some of these. Manager spans of control are going to increase.
Yep.
Uh, Developing entry level skills and the opportunities to do that for on the job learning are going to become much harder.
Yeah.
What I'm pretty sure is going to be true is that organizations are going to get flatter. And there's going to be probably fewer layers of management in most organizations because one of the most important roles in management is the flow of information up and down within an organization to maintain alignment and those sorts of things. AI tools will enable that flow of information much faster. And so organizations, I think, are going to get flatter. Uh, the third thing that we know is going to be true is that the repetitive tasks that have a clear yes or no, right or wrong answer, like that's where automation is going to occur.
Yep.
And I'm making these numbers up. So like, let's say right now for the typical employee, 75% of their work falls into that category and 25% falls into judgment calls or resource allocation calls or things that require context or politics or emotions or other non-repeatable with clear right or wrong, yes or no answers. Um, if that's 25-75 now, that's going to switch to 50-50, 75-25 the other way. Like I'm making those numbers up, but we're going to move in that direction. So as I think about it as an HR executive, those three things are going to be true to varying degrees, but directionally, all three of those things are going to be true. So let's take the first one. So if managers are going to have, or I guess four, if managers are going to have a broader span of control, what can you do to more effectively enable them to manage more people,
Yeah.
right? And how many more people do you want them to manage? Because as they manage more people, it's less time with each individual one, and that creates a strain and stress on them and their ability to be effective. But like
Yep.
having a thoughtful viewpoint on that rather than it simply happening to you. And what are the skills capabilities as there's more personal, social, cultural, emotional, psychological interactions that happen between employees and managers. And as that becomes more of the relationship, how do you support managers along that dimension? I think uh, 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 getting to the last one, around more resource allocation decisions, political decisions, those sorts of things, that is a very different skill set that most managers and leaders don't have. So if you were to start doing simulations, leadership training, discussions, fireside chats, whatever development approaches you want to take as an organization that are really focusing on how do you make judgment decisions, that is going to be a skill set and capability that's going to become much more important in the future than it is now. So you look at those things, and to make it more digestible is I wouldn't approach it as like, oh my gosh, AI is going to change the world. I don't know what to do. But my managers are going to look different.
Yeah.
How do I make that decision? We're going to have to develop judgment capabilities. How do we develop judgment capabilities? And think about those things that we know will be true and will be good no matter what. Build those first because even if it isn't as big of an effect as we think it might be now, it's going to be good if you do it. There's nobody that's like, you know what my leaders need? They need worse judgment. That's really what we want to get to. I haven't heard that conversation. And if I do, I'm going to short the stock of that company in a second. But these are all good things. And so break it down into we know what's going to happen directionally. How do we work on solving that problem? And then go from there.
Yes, it's different problems to solve. I was talking with an HR leader as we are getting some feedback on some AI experimentation that we're working on here at WorkTango, and one of the conversation kind of endpoints was, Well, if we could take this 25% of the work off of your plate through some of the things that we've been working on, what would you do with that freed up capacity? And the answer was, I've never had an opportunity to think about that.
Yeah.
And it's a really like AI can seem super scary because it's a lot of change, but at the same time, if done properly, it gives you this freedom to be able to rethink what is the work that you get to focus your time on versus what feeds, fills up your day. And
Yeah.
that's a really exciting opportunity.
Like and I'm looking at one of the questions in the chat here as well that's talking about, to this point, that collaboration amongst employees is really hard. And it's one of the places where things are tough. Um, this is a place where I think AI actually could be really, really valuable. So, uh, why is collaboration hard? Like getting calendars aligned, getting, schedules aligned, da da da. Like all of that is tough. Different people have different objectives. We're not always perfectly aligned. We haven't always done a perfect goal cascade on stuff like that's true. Some people just don't like other people. Like that's true as well. Like all of those things happen in an organization. But imagine if, or one of the ways to make collaboration better is to have the right person to collaborate with because they've got knowledge that you don't. You've got chocolate, they've got peanut butter, you put it together, goodness happens. Imagine if you actually had an AI tool that could move across the different types of work that people are engaging in, and the AI tool starts to say, like, hey, you're working on this type of problem. Someone else over in France is working on a similar type of problem. I'm going to make a suggestion that the two of you work together on this particular problem because you've got a shared piece.
Yeah.
So you can imagine a world of AI agents helping identify better collaborators for you, at least based upon the problems you're trying to solve. It might not solve I don't like the person problem, but at least you've got a shared collaborator in terms of who to collaborate with on what. So that's one place. Another place where I think it can actually be really, really cool uh, is on just the collaboration front. Um, Managers manage a lot of people. They don't often see uh, uh, the work and contributions that any individual employee is making. But imagine AI tools that can help better identify who are making contributions as workflows horizontally across an organization. Uh, you know, People recognize each other all the time from a peer-to-peer perspective. They do it on different platforms like yours. You could take a lot of that information and then start to not necessarily using your performance management system because of the hallucination question earlier, but you could start to use that to have some sort of soft recognition for people. It's like, hey, as a manager, I realize that you're getting all of these shout outs on these different things. That's awesome. And you can use a lot of the tools that we've got in different and kind ways to identify who's good at collaborating, who's helping each other. So it's going to be taking what we've got in new approaches, which I think is another way to help use some of these tools in those sorts of spaces.
Yeah. I- it's harnessing what you have and yes, anding on top of it, right?
Mhm.
And taking it that one step further. I want to, there's two really great questions in the chat. I'm going to go kind of bottom up if I can. So, earlier, Brian, you talked about how kind of entry level jobs, first role jobs were getting automated faster. And I think it's because, it's easier to see. There's a lot of yes, no, as you said, one, two, couple of quick decisions, but we see opportunities for rethinking work across all levels within the organization and even higher skilled jobs. So how do you think about, one, leveraging LLM tools for some of those things if you've had those conversations with the HR leaders? And then two, how do you make sure that it's this balance of um, people having fear that their jobs go away,
Yeah,
which is real. And as we've kind of
for
had
sure.
questions come in before this and during this chat, that seems to be one of the biggest challenges is like harnessing the fear. So how do you see it in higher order work or higher, more skilled jobs? And then also, how do we address the fear challenge? Because that's real.
Yeah, yeah. Let me start with the higher order jobs. It's true, it's happening. Uh, and uh, in some ways, it's good, but for society as a whole. Like, for example, there's a lot of innovators out there in the healthcare space that have read millions of x-rays, and they're creating services now that you go to the hospital, you get an x-ray, your doctor doesn't read the x-ray anymore. It's actually read by AI, and then they might have a human in the loop to double check what it's saying, but eventually that'll probably go away, or be dramatically lessened at a minimum. And that's probably a good thing because the AI can be more effective by looking at millions of x-rays to identify if someone has very early stages of cancer, for example. I think we'd all agree that if technology can identify a cancer much earlier than a doctor can, that's good. And we want that as a society. But if you think about jobs that have the most specialized knowledge, like doctor is pretty close to the top of that list, if not like number on that list. Like they're top five on that front. So it's occurring in all sorts of places. Um, you know, the answer of um, how do you manage the fear part of it? Uh, I don't have the best answers on how do you eliminate the fear, but I do have some thoughts on how do you not make the fear worse. So there are several companies, and I won't name the guilty, um, but they've made statements like, "Hey, we are going to shrink the size of this particular function by 20%, and we expect you to use AI tools to help us do that." If that's not a direct message to 20% of the employees in that function, that 20% of you are going to lose your job, uh, I don't know what is. The using threats, mandates of cost cutting, I think exacerbates the fear problem uh, significantly. It's kind of first thought. Second thought, when you just look at the demographics of the world, uh, we kind of have a people problem. Overall population in most developed economies uh, is not growing. And then we've been talking for years about impending retirement wave. We're actually seeing it now. Like
Yeah.
it's playing out at this point in time. And so when you talk to demographers, the number of working age people relative to the overall population is going in a direction where we need people more than ever. So kind of second thought on that one. Then third thought on that one is if you're out there communicating to your employees that you want to use AI to shrink the workforce by 20%, like good luck trying to hire other people because the damage that that message creates on a labor market is enormous. Because if you're a candidate and you're a great candidate, it's like, do you want to go to the place that's like, oh yeah, we're planning on like laying off 20% of the people just to save a buck? um, you're not going to attract the best candidates. So those sorts of forced mandate strategies, uh, I think the companies that are pursuing them are going to struggle over the medium to long term to have enough talent and attract and retain the best talent. So what are some of the things that you can do on the other side to help mitigate that fear a little bit? I think one is HR has a responsibility to constantly be evolving the organization. HR has a responsibility to identify what are those future needs that an organization will have, and building the skills and capabilities that are associated with that. And there's, I think, a role that will emerge in HR functions across the next, 6+ months, which is vice president of human AI workforce transformation or something like that. But whose job is it within HR to be thinking through how do we get humans and AI agents to work together to create the best possible experience in a way that's right answer for the people that work here? It needs to be somebody's job at the company to do that. And I think that person should sit within the HR function. But that is a missing job on the HR org chart right now. That if I were a chief human resources officer, I would either go hire someone or figure out who's the right person that has a technology understanding, a talent understanding, and an ethical moral understanding to be thinking through how should the organizations evolve in a way that is right answer for the company and the employees as we're working through this transformation. And then the last thought that I've got is on this question, employees aren't dumb. They know that there's a bunch of jobs that will be automated away. So I think the other responsibility that HR executives have is to think about how do you help employees with their long-term employability. Employees increasingly get that uh, the world is changing, companies come and go, jobs come and go, and that speed is going to accelerate. So I think from an HR perspective, you've got a responsibility, which is to be honest with your employees and be like, look, AI could eliminate some jobs. Uh, but we want you to be skilling and learning and growing in a way that if you, for whatever reason, don't have a great career here, and maybe it's because of job eliminations due to AI, but you have the employability to go to other places and have a career. And that is a huge mindset shift for HR because so much of it is, well, as soon as that person leaves, then they're dead to me. But it really needs to be my responsibility from an organization to you as an employee through the experience that we're creating is to not only make sure that it is great here, but we're setting you up for a great career that may or may not be here. And I think the shift to that conversation is probably one of the most important things that HR executives can do to help manage against not just the fear, but the reality that there's going to be job losses up and down an organization due to AI.
Such a great point. I'm watching the clock, and while I could spend an entire, probably several hours with you, Brian, I'm going to allow us to end here. Thank you so much for your insights, your perspectives, the honesty of what we know and we don't know. This has been great. I'm going to toss it over, Rob, to you to kind of clean us up with housekeeping, next steps, and highlight anything I've missed today.
Oh my gosh. Well, first off, thank you to you, Brian and Monique, for leading the conversation. I have so many notes and things I need to think about. Big thank you to everyone that was asking some great questions and that are part of the community. It definitely pointed some ideas, Jessica, to your point right now, in terms of some of the missing pieces and other things we need to think about. Obviously, we're all in this journey. The book isn't written on how to handle this or deal with this, but if we do it collectively, that's where we get to success. So just a huge appreciation for everyone making time for this today. As a follow-up, everyone will get the link to the recording if you wanted to take a look at this in the future, and some other great resources that you can leverage that WorkTango is offering the world. Yes, so I'll end it with that. Just a great discussion, much appreciated, and may you all have a wonderful rest of the Thursday. Take care,
Thanks so
everyone.
much.
Bye bye.
Bye.